Hey, beautiful family. Welcome back to day three. Um, Today we're going to be talking about relationship patterns and how to break free from ones that are keeping you stuck. Because I've noticed from a lot of you who have been joining this group recently, as well as just reaching out and messaging, you've been sharing that you've been in these kind of repetitive patterns or cycles in your relationships, maybe constantly attracting that same kind of person over and over again, no matter how hard you try. Or just kind of like feeling like you're not respected, your needs or your voice doesn't matter in your relationships. So, regardless, this is going to be really helpful for you. And please, as always, be as interactive as you'd like. Ask questions as we go. I'd love to help support you specifically with whatever's going on. And yeah, if you catch the replay, make sure you comment replay so that I know you're here. And if you're here, drop some hearts, let me know. Yeah, and then let's get started. I'm laughing because you know that saying about like spilling the tea? Like she just spilled the tea, like shared the gossip or something. I like literally just spilled my tea right before I turned this on. And then I started cracking up because I was like, I'm coming on here to like spill the tea, and I spilled the tea already. So, um, with that said, I'll get into the actual tea of this conversation, which is relationship patterns. What's so cool, and I've been like experimenting with this a lot in my own life lately, and that's why I'm also extra excited to share the things that I've learned, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and share like these personal experiences with you because um, I personally believe that people are mirrors of us. And so, when you get triggered by someone, it's a really great reflection. Like they're mirroring back to you something that obviously is an area where you have some healing or some resistance or some frustration, some underlying beliefs or pain, right? And this isn't to like condone or justify their actions. So I want to like preface this before I get into anything relating to negative relationship patterns or cycles, is that like in no way, shape, or form am I ever saying that you deserve to be treated poorly. By no means am I saying that, and by no means am I saying that like the partner was actually like right when they treated you poorly. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But what I want to share is kind of like how we can use these so-called negative or maybe not as positive experiences and these patterns that we get stuck in, how we can use them as a mirror to reflect back to us our own areas for healing, for growth. And it's in doing that shift that you actually elevate to a new frequency and you're going to attract in a new person. So let me share a personal example to help explain this even better. And thank you, Emily, for the hearts. I'm glad you're here. So let's just look at how much our level of self-worth and our confidence, our belief in ourselves dictates what we're willing to put up with. And so years ago, when I was probably at my most insecure, my most unworthy, I didn't really believe in like positive relationships. I had a lot of limiting beliefs because my parents had separated. Most of the guys I was friends with were players, and so I saw that very closely. And then also most of them, like a lot of the guys I spent time with and hung out with and like was friends with in high school and university, were guys who didn't necessarily have a ton of integrity and were cheating on their girlfriends. They were sleeping around. And so me observing that, I had very little belief or faith that like something other than that existed. So not only did I have, plus not to mention the experiences I had with my own dad growing up, who's a beautiful human, but never showed me love the way I personally needed it. And so I always felt like I wasn't loved or I wasn't enough. And I always craved and desperately wanted his love and approval, which is a very, very common position that so many women end up in, where they're craving that love or approval from the masculine. And what that translates into is that all masculine aspects, I'm talking money, I'm talking men, I'm talking your mission and purpose and like your driving force here, as well as your connection to God and the divine. These are all masculine aspects. And when we struggle with our relationship to the masculine, most likely from our upbringing, our first experience with a masculine figure is our dad. And so whatever kind of wounding or pain is created from him not being able to be perfect, which he can't be, doesn't exist, and him not being able to provide us with the things we needed or wanted, that creates this really big wound. And it can show up as like an abandonment wound, it can show up as an unworthiness wound, it can show up as insecurities, right? It can show up as a lot of different things, but ultimately it stems back to that pain or that feeling like we're not enough for the masculine. And let's look at this. Hey Sarah, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for the hearts. Let's look at this as well as we get older. So for me personally, and you can relate this in your own way, I'm not saying every single person is going to be the exact same as me, but I'm hoping by sharing this, you'll be able to relate and see a reflection for yourself of how this might be showing up for you. So I had this big abandonment and unworthiness wound with my dad where, he was so busy with work trying to provide, but he wasn't physically there the way I needed. So I felt abandoned, like I kind of didn't matter. And I had unworthiness, feeling like no matter what I did, I wasn't enough. And what happens when our child self feels that way? And we maybe find ourselves slipping back into this as adults, which is why this awareness is going to be so important and so powerful for you to see it in your own life. You can comment down below if you have any ideas of what I'm going to say. If not, I'm going to share it anyway, so no worries there. But because I had this abandonment and this unworthiness wound, the way that a child reacts to that, I would say, is one of two ways. So they either try extra hard because they're like, please just look at me. Oh, like, look, I did this. Oh, I'll be here for that. Oh, and they're over giving or over showing up, and it comes in that desperate energy. It's not intentionally desperate, and I don't mean desperate like you're desperate. I don't mean it in an insult. I was very desperate for love from the masculine because I felt like it was never there for me. And so all I wanted was like that desperate need of just, please see me, please give me the love that I feel like I deserve and I really want. Okay, so that's one way we can respond to that lack of love from the masculine. And I'll get into how that translates into later life in a second. The other way we can respond is almost completely shutting down, like guarding our hearts, blocking it off, becoming hyper independent, and we get into our own masculine. We become in a very strong masculine energy because we didn't have that externally. So we feel like, oh, I need to complete that for myself. And so I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to provide. I'm going to have this structure, this support, this stability. But in a lot of ways, it's also kind of this false protection because it's this false guarding around our heart. And underneath it, we're still that little girl who just desperately wants to be loved and who just wants to feel like she's enough. And so me personally, I would say I fell into both of those categories, and that's very possible. So as I got older, I'm a super independent person, and I have very much guarded my heart and very much been like, you know what? I can take care of myself. I'm not going to be depending on someone else like to provide for me, to make me happy. I'm going to take all of that into my own hands and try to do it for myself, which is beautiful if it's done the right way. It can also lead to really avoiding interaction or being closed off to potential partners. And also still can cause those patterns and those cycles to come because I'm not in a very balanced place. On the same end, I also have that desperate kind of, and I say that lightly. Emily says she can relate. I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that this is connecting. So there's also that part of me that has that desperate energy of just wanting to be loved. And so for most of my years, high school is a perfect example. Firstly, I was very insecure and had a lot of unworthiness. So that was already a thing. Then I was very picky and independent of like my energy. And so I wasn't like gonna just be with anyone. So I was very much guarded of like, this person needs to like really, really prove to me that it's safe for me to open my heart and be interested, or else I'm not going there. So that was a strong guarding block that I created. And at the same time, all I wanted was attention or love. And so like I built my self-worth around if someone I liked me back. And if they didn't, it was like this soul-crushing, oh my gosh, I must not be good enough, and there's something wrong with me. How many of you have ever said that in a partnership or in a breakup where you're like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me? And it's so heavy because we take it on as if it's on us, right? You can relate to, oh, I'm so glad, Michaela. Yeah, we can take that on and be like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I must not be good enough. And yet in that same wound, there's still that desire, that craving, or that desperation to just be seen and just be loved. And it does come back to that inner child, that part of us who growing up maybe felt like that wasn't met for her. So what we can find as we get into patterns, and this is where we'll come into, let's do it. Let's do it. Day 3, task 1. My friends, task 1 here is going to be all about just reflecting on your relationship experience, whether that's a lot, whether that's a little. Like I've had very little relationship experience because I was so guarded that I didn't even let anyone in. So I've like really not ever dated anyone because I've just been like, oh, that's really scary to let someone in, and I feel safer to just kind of guard myself until like I really, really know for sure there's a super strong connection, or there's this really immense feeling of safety that allows me to then let that guard down and show up, right? But it takes a lot for me to get there. And that's something I'm working on. But task 1 for today is going to be to reflect on your previous relationship experiences and look at the patterns that you might see. Is it a pattern where you kind of end up feeling a little bit needy or desperate, and you're like, why isn't he giving me more attention? Like, why isn't he loving me back? Why isn't he showing up for me more? I'm over here, I'm doing all these things, I'm, like trying to be wonderful, I'm like just all of it, right? And then he's still not really giving me the attention that I want. So if that's a pattern, that's really, really important to reflect on that and look back to your childhood and look back to like what, as I said at the very beginning of this video, how is this mirroring and reflecting back to you an area where you could do some healing? So that example is probably mirroring back that there was something, again, whether in your childhood or just like your early childhood, where you felt like you needed to prove yourself, and so you felt like you were trying and trying and trying to get the attention from your dad or to get the attention from any kind of masculine in your life. It's fascinating when you start looking at these patterns. I'm not even kidding. I started to realize like, oh my gosh, this even adds into all of my coaches in sports. My coaches who were men, and I was just journaling on this yesterday. Oh, I am so glad you can relate. Yeah. Let's see if I can. It's giving me more clarity. Yay. Yay. So definitely keep reflecting on it, right? It's so important. And we have the power with one of my favorite things that one of my clients said to me one day, and I'm like, I share it all the time now because I love it, is with awareness, change can happen or change can occur, right? Like we can't make change until we become aware. As I posted in here last night, we cannot truly heal until like what we haven't revealed. Like we have to reveal it in order to heal it. So this exact pattern, for me, like then I look, okay, if I look at all of my relationships, not just romantic, but like friendships and like authority and anything with the masculine, I look at coaches who are the masculine, and I had this really desperate need for them to give me approval. And it's funny because what do we get what we're a vibrational match for. We always get what we're a vibrational match for. You can comment that down below, like I want to run this home. We get what we're a vibrational match for. So if I'm a vibrational match of I'm not good enough, I have to prove myself to the masculine, and I have to prove that I'm worthy, and I'm really, really needing and wanting and craving his attention or approval, 99% of the time, I'm going to be reflected the reality that matches that, which is going to keep me in that energy because I'm getting what I'm expecting. I'm getting what I'm vibrating on, what I believe to be true for myself. So I would say like literally all my years of sports, like, and I started playing when I was like 6 or 7 till 20 something, like 24. And all of those years, majority of my coaches were men. And I can only think of one coach who actually gave me positive feedback and like gave me praise. And the rest of them, it would be like I could have the most amazing game ever. And after the game, there was like this one time where the coach literally complimented every single person who played except for me. And I was the only one who played the whole freaking game. And he didn't say a thing about like, yeah, Carrie, you did a great job. Or like, wait, and like, I know I did because I wouldn't have been on the court otherwise. Like I wouldn't have been playing, but he couldn't even give me the approval. And all that I wanted, like that desperate need of like, please just see me and give me some approval. Please just tell me that I'm enough, because at that time I didn't believe it within myself, so I was searching for it without, right? And this is where like I could go on and on forever, and maybe I will, but I'm glad so many of you are relating to this. So when it comes to patterns, that first one, that first step, task 1 today, is to really look at the patterns and what has been showing up for you. So I've been working on this and shifting this and really, really reprogramming my beliefs about myself, really healing a lot of unworthiness wounds, and doing so much deep energy work and energy releasing to like shift and clear this stuff out. And so in the process, let's bring to what's possible. Let's bring to like the positive. So in the process, 2020, I started the year where I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter what my current reality is. I was single. Hi, the cat's here. Come on. I was single and I had like no one on the cards necessarily. Like I was in Australia. But I just started to be like, I'm gonna get in every single day. I'm gonna get into the energy of like, I already have my soulmate here with me. And like, he's like this, he makes me feel this way, you know, all of these things. And I spent a long time and like, it wasn't like consuming me. I wasn't focused on it, but I made sure every day, like I tapped into like, ooh, and you can do this with money too, of like, what would you feel like and think like, and how would you show up if you already had what you wanted? Because when we're in that either a negative relationship where it's not matching what we truly want, or when we don't have it, we're in the energy of separation, right? We're like, oh, this isn't what I actually want. Something's wrong, something's missing, and I'm unhappy about that. And I really want to fix it. I desperately want to fix the person or fix the relationship, or I desperately want to find that person or make it happen. We're in an energy of lack and separation, and so we create more lack and separation. Or we just create more kind of tension and discord and disharmony within the existing relationship. Okay? So when we shift into, I already have it, and in an energetic standpoint, every single one of you is already, like, you already have what's destined for you. If you want to meet your soulmate, you're going to meet your soulmate. It's destined. It's here. If you want more money, if you know you're meant for more money, like, believe it, because that's there for you. You just have to become a vibrational match. You just have to be open to it and on the same level. And how do we get onto that level? Is by acting as if, or being in the energy of like, there is no separation. This is already mine. So as I started to do this work, it was really interesting, and this is going to be a bit of a long story, but I think it's going to be really helpful, because there was like positives and things I learned that didn't work that I want to share, because this is a common mistake too. So hopefully it can help you not make, or just can help you be aware of it as it's coming. So I was every day getting into the energy of how great it felt to already have my soulmate, and like how great it felt to have this man who matched all these things. And again, he made me feel this certain way, because feeling is such a big part of the manifestation process, and the energetic alignment. So I was feeling like he's already here. This is what's going on in my life. And I'm not kidding. Like, literally the next day, this man reached out to me who I had already known. You know, we had chatted a few times in the past. There had always been like this little bit of chemistry, but nothing ever happened. And like, he reached out to me out of nowhere, and it was like this full blown, like, all of a sudden, like, whoa, you know, things escalated really quickly in our interactions. And I was like, I was so caught off guard. Like, I remember literally sitting there being like, did this just happen? Like, how did I get here? It felt like I totally had this like quantum leap, which I did, because energetically I was shifting into a different version of myself, and I was just open and like believing that this was possible. And so I was like, whoa, like, could this actually be this easy? Like, did this actually just happen? So anyway, long story short, we're not dating, we're not like soulmates, you know, but what came into my life from that experience was what he mirrored back to me again. So he mirrored what I still believed I deserved. And let me explain that, because this is so crucial. You could manifest like literally today or tomorrow a really, like, someone who looks like the perfect partner for you. And then a few months down the road, you might be like, oh wow, this is actually not as positive or not as healthy as I thought it was. And it doesn't mean that like you're bad at manifesting, or it doesn't mean that like this was the wrong person from day one. It just means that they're here to, again, mirror and reflect something to you that helps you grow or up level or get more clear on what you do really want. So from this guy, things started so great, it felt really positive, but then it turned into kind of this feeling where I was like, he's not really giving me that much, he's not showing that much interest in me as a person and in the depth. It was more like he was interested in the physical, and which was matching a lot of my beliefs from childhood or from my teenage and university years of like, that's all that men kind of see me as. That was a really big belief I had because of so many experiences, and then like traumas, and then like having bosses who, you know, crossed the line and were super gross and sleazy, and then, you know, men when I was traveling, or like who I was like when I was couch surfing or like staying at different places, and then they had the wrong idea, and I was like, why is this always happening? Why does this pattern keep happening to me? But it's because there was this underlying energy that I was still carrying of that's all that men want from me, and also not believing that something better was possible and not believing that I deserved something better. So all of those things were still in my energetic field, and that's why I bring this story in, because so with this awareness, things started to fall apart with this guy, but in the best possible way, because I was able to see, wow, okay, this isn't actually what I want, and I don't really feel like I'm being respected or treated very well. And I actually spoke up for myself, which was a huge, huge breakthrough as someone who in the past never felt confident in her voice. This is why I'm so excited for my clients, some of these amazing women inside Release to Thrive who do speak up for themselves and leave negative relationships, or finally say, hey, you know what, I believe I deserve better, and so either I need more or this is it, right? Because it can be really hard to speak up for yourself, but that's a huge part that shifts you out of that pattern and into something better, into something that matches your new level of self-worth. What is it from Perks of Being a Wallflower? We get the love that we think we deserve. We get the love that we think we deserve. So if we think we deserve just this mediocre, it's okay, meh, is kind of settling. If we believe we deserve that, then we will stay there. But if we can continue to tap in and elevate our own self-worth and connect to our hearts and know like, hey, you know what? If I'm not 110% happy here, then this isn't it, you know? Like, I deserve better, and I'm not gonna settle. I'm going to keep striving. And that doesn't mean that your partner's gonna be perfect, because there is gonna be growth on both sides. So it's not being unrealistic, but like if they're willing to work with you and they're willing to communicate and have those changes and they respect you in the process, that's a totally different thing than if you're just feeling like it doesn't really feel good for you at all. So in the process, coming back around, let me know if this is still helping you. So I started to think about like, okay, I activated my voice, which was huge for me to speak up to him. And like also what happened with this guy, we had like a long distance thing, and he just started to like fully ghost after being like crazy passionate, crazy interested. And so I was like, wow, this literally just feels like the sleaziest thing that like here I am thinking one thing, and then like he's just not, we're not on the same page at all. And so he ghosted. And so usually in the past I would have felt like insecure, or same thing as I said earlier of like, oh, what did I do wrong, or like what's wrong with me, you know, I must not have been enough. And I would have placed my worth in his actions. But because of all the work I'd been doing, and I was starting at that point to tap into like this queen energy, you know, and like really embodying my worth and knowing what I deserve and what I want. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna send him a voice note. And so like first time ever really speaking up for myself with the masculine. And I just sent, and it was like from like a compassionate place. I wasn't blaming and saying like you're a horrible person, but I was like, hey, you know, I don't really know what's going on here, because it seemed like things were positive and moving forward, seemed like you were interested, and then you know, XYZ happened, and then now you've just been totally ghosting, and so it doesn't make me feel very good. And so I was like, it makes like I feel very disrespected, and like I just, yeah, like some clarity would be great, and or like it's great, we'll just go our separate ways. And I was fine. I didn't care what the outcome was, but I was just really confident and proud to speak up for myself. And so in that process though, where I'm going to wrap this up, is that it really was the mirror that showed me that I still had some work to do in terms of my beliefs of what was possible and what I could attract. Okay. And so, funny enough, when I just recently ended something with someone, this same guy reached out like the next day, and I was like, what? I was like, why is he back again? What is this trying to tell me? But he was doing the exact same thing that he had done a year ago, where he was just like reaching back out and wanting like the physical. And so the way I perceived this, and this could seem totally delusional to some people, but what I saw from this whole experience was that he was coming back in, and it was literally a test from the universe to see if I was gonna settle and just be like, yeah, okay, and go back, or if I was gonna continue to up level and rise up and continue standing in my worth and being like, no, like this is not a vibrational match at all, and like you are not coming you're not meeting me where I want to meet someone right now. Like you're down here, and it's not an ego thing, it's just like that's not what I'm interested or looking for. So I'm gonna stay here and stand strong and like be confident. And that unworthy piece of me from the past, who would have wanted his approval or just been like, oh, I'm so happy for the attention, or I'm so glad he's reaching out or showing interest, that part, that inner child, that version of me who wanted the love in the past, this time was like, no, that's not that's not a thing. Like I'm not gonna drop my own standards and place my worth in someone who's not able to give me what I need. I'm going to continue to elevate and stay strong and know what I want, and then believe that when the right time it comes, that person's going to attract to me. So I feel like that was such a long story. I can't even see the time. It's my bad. I feel like that was such a long story. So I hope it was helpful. Ultimately, what I want you to realize is that if there's patterns though, where is it showing up from your end? Okay? Again, this isn't condoning their actions. So I've had some really, really horrible things happen to me from the masculine, and I'm in no way justifying and saying that like that was okay, how they treated me. But I am very aware of the fact that when those things happened, I didn't believe that I deserved better. And so I wasn't willing, I wasn't capable actually of like speaking up, or capable of discerning like, ooh, this is not going in a good direction, or I shouldn't be in this place. Right? I was still really wanting and craving and just looking for some kind of love or validation from the masculine. And so it ended up with me being in some situations that weren't very positive. And the best way I like to think about it now is like, if you think of your highest self, and for me personally, like that's a queen. I think of like this badass empowered woman who's like sitting there on her throne, and she like knows her worth. There's not a doubt in her mind what she deserves. She would not be settling for anything less than what she wants. And that's not a cocky thing, that's not an egotistical thing, that's just a knowing and a centering and an anchoring in her worth, and realizing that she deserves the best. She deserves what she wants. So that version of you, that highest possible version of you, who's confident, strong, aligned, believes in herself, knows her worth, how would she show up each day? And maybe this is task 2, is to like write out a paragraph or write out a few sentences of like, in the present tense, who you are and what you're calling in, what you're available for. Because I know for me, like Queen Kara, oh honey, she is not available for the masculine who's just sliding into the DMs and wants something physical. Like in the past, I would have, because I would have been hopeful of like, maybe he'll end up loving me. maybe he'll give me attention and then he'll realize I'm great and we'll be together forever. And I would have had this really like desperate desire for that approval or attention. But that came from a lot of child wounds. That came from my relationship to my dad. That came from like abandonment and fear and all these other things I've shared, right? Unworthiness. The queen who knows what she is worth, she doesn't have time for that stuff. And so she's not even a vibrational match. And this is what's going to be so powerful, which is why I really hope you all do this homework. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments, but I'm loving this homework. Are you? Because I really hope so. These tasks are going to be so powerful. I'm so excited to see where everyone's at the end of the 30 days because it's going to be really profound, really transformative. So day 3, task 2 is to write out a paragraph or a few sentences in the present tense as your highest self. So that could be, you know, as a queen, as just like a strong, empowered woman, just like whatever future version of you see and you want to tap into, the version of you who already has her soulmate or already has the most perfect partnership in whatever, yay, I'm so glad you're enjoying the homework. Whatever perfect, whatever kind of partnership reality you wish to call in, spend a few minutes just tapping into the energy of what that would feel like for you and the version of you that would have that. And so like for me as that like queen embodiment, I know what she would or wouldn't settle for. I know what she's calling in. I know what she knows she deserves. And so it's so much easier for me to get into the vibration of that and be like, ooh, this is all I'm available for. And like we don't want to bring in the negatives, because then that can make the vibration kind of like screwy and weird. So you just want to focus on what you do have. So it's not like, oh, I don't have someone who's sliding in my DMs. I don't have another guy who just wants me for this or who speaks to me that way or doesn't respect me. That makes the vibration really screwy. You don't want to focus on what you don't want. You want to focus on what you do want. So it's like, I love that I have a partner who absolutely adores and respects me. I love being with someone who is interested and passionate about what I do, who cares about me, you know, who wants to support me. I love being with a partner who's like passionate about his own things, blah, blah, blah. Like, what would that look like for you? And get into that energy. Because then all of the things I've been sharing in the rest of this video start to fall away. And it's literally like you can see this bubble of like what your higher self would tolerate, what your higher self is available for, is this beautiful, vibrant bubble over here. And probably what you're in right now in relationships, if you're watching this, is probably like a murky, disjointed bubble right now, like where it's not really what you want, and then there's like stuff sliding in that doesn't feel good, and moments where you feel unworthy or not enough, right? And it's like, it's not a nice place to be, so we don't want to be giving more energy and attention to that unless we're looking at like, why do I feel this way, or what are the patterns? So that's task 1, right? What are the patterns and where do those things stem from? Why do you feel that way? What is the wounding that's causing you to stay in that place or to seek or desperately crave or want, right? Or feel unworthy. So we can get clear on that, but then we don't want to focus or manifest from that place. We want to focus and manifest from the highest self, the version of us who's abundant, loved, you know, overflowing with all the good things and is super empowered and confident, okay? So that's going to be task 2, is write something out from there of like what your dream relationship looks like, feels like. Paint yourself a picture, something that gets you like energetically aligned and excited and feeling really good. And then you're going to focus on that. I highly recommend like looking over that, even if it's one paragraph, like looking over that every day and allowing yourself to get excited about it. Allow yourself to celebrate it already, even though it's not yet manifested in the physical. but you know it's possible. This is a possible reality. So in order to align with it and call it in, you just get to live there. You get to be there, and it's going to attract to you. And anytime a doubt comes up that tells you you're not worthy, you question that doubt. Or anytime someone from down here slides in and tries to like pull you back into a relationship or pull you off the track, you tap into this version of you and you go, wait, is this actually what I want? Is this actually a match for where I see myself? And if it's not, then you can confidently say, no, that's not for me, right? And bless it or bless them and send them on their way. And then you stay over here. So the universe will bring us so many amazing things, but it always brings us what we believe we deserve. The more you can get into the energy of really, really believing and feeling and getting your like energy, your full force behind this belief, the more that's going to come in. And just quickly, I'm going to share a story because actually one of my Release to Thrive members who went through the mastermind, she was super focused on manifesting her partner. And we talked about this because the last month, for those who have gone through the program, you know this, but for those who haven't, the last month is a lot about like aligning with your intuition, with law of attraction, manifestation, all of that kind of stuff, getting into vibrational match with what you want. And so she was getting super clear on like her dream partner and like literally to the career of what this person would do, you know, the way they'd make her feel, all these different things. And anytime the beliefs came up of like, oh, that's not possible or that's too hard, it was like, no, let's just ignore those beliefs or send them on their way or realize they don't have to be true. Stay focused. I don't need to know how this person's coming. I just know this is what I want and this is what I'm going to be a vibrational match to. And then all of a sudden I got this message from them being like, oh my God, Carrie, you're never gonna believe it. I've manifested my soulmate. I swear, like these are the things that they have. This is the things that they're doing, you know, the traits, the characteristics. And I literally remember talking with her on one of her last calls where she shared with me like that list of what that person looked like and made her feel like. And then she's like, she's here. like this is all happening right now. And it was so beautiful. And I just share that to show you that if you can be super clear and you don't waffle, and that's even why my example from before is so important, because I was still wavering. I wasn't unshakable in my confidence and in what I wanted and what I knew I deserved. I still left room for kind of the settling, which happens a lot. And the room for like, oh, but you know, or this is okay at the time, and so like it's fine. But that's not aligned with this. Whereas my client, she was so aligned. She's like, this is it. This is like full force where I'm putting all my energy. And she manifested it. Like within a few months, that person came into her reality because she was so focused on it. So I'm gonna wrap this up here before I talk for even longer. So if you found this helpful, again, drop some hearts, give it a thumbs up. And for anyone who is interested in knowing more about having some support working together, who wants to dive deep into a lot of this inner healing work, I've opened up a couple spots on my calendar for discovery calls for the rest of this week. So if you want to chat more, you want to know how I can support you, you just want to uncover like, why am I stuck in these places with partnerships or with career, with all these different things, and you don't know where to start? I'll drop the link down below for a discovery call. As I said, I've just got a few spots this week before I'm gonna like cut that out. So take advantage. I would love to chat. I'd love to discuss and see how I can help you break free and get into that life, create that life that you deserve, really start thriving. So as always, I really truly hope that this video was helpful. I'm so excited to be sharing more again tomorrow. And I'll see you on the next video, and I'll share the homework in the group later too. So really, really dive deep into this homework. It's gonna help so much. Sending so much love to each and every one of you, and we'll talk soon.